I wonder about things that are weird. You've probably gotten that by now, but one of the things I wonder about, and maybe you have as well, so is what it was like to be Adam. Specifically, waking up in this garden and being completely devoid of context. He was isolated, not just in the sense that he was the only person on this planet, but he was isolated from culture. He had no sense of anything in terms of the context to what he was seeing. So much so that he actually had to name animals. I mean, we learn names of animals as but we're aware that that's what they are. That's what they're called. What's this, and we intrinsically want to know what things are, even as little kids learning about our environment. Adam didn't have that. He had to give context to everything. And how isolated that must have felt. I mean, to not even have, and everything is being thrown at him immediately. To wake up and to figure out the relationships of things, and that goes with that, and now all of a sudden he's got a wife that he never knew. He didn't know what females looked like until he had a wife. That's so much context to get. It must have been very strange. And so we look at things like, for example, the third chapter of Genesis, where he's tempted and here's this snake talking to him and go, that can't be real. Adam in this story doesn't get surprised that he's talking to a snake, or Eve, or what, and well, he had no context. A talking snake doesn't necessarily surprise you if you have very limited knowledge of the way the world works, and if everything has been new to you. Why is a talking snake, for example, so much different? So there's all these different things that go on, and we look, I think, sometimes at our lives with the same type of isolated view. There's intrinsic things that we have as our lives. We understand that we're a part of everything, but we sometimes, I think, look at our lives as completely isolated from lives that have happened before. Now, he was truly isolated because he didn't have anything to look back on. But how many of you who are maybe my age or younger remember being surprised? Actually surprised that things before 1950 had color. Like, you look at a picture of something. I saw a picture of a set, a movie or a TV set or whatever it was. It was an original, I think it was a TV set of the Addams Family, not anything recent, the old version of it. And it was in pinks and reds, and they did pinks and reds to try to get the right shades of gray and black. But before a certain age, any World War II footage you see is all black and white. Interestingly enough, if you go back to the 1800s, everything is sepia tone, this kind of brownish, look to it. And so many of those images are burned in our mind that we kind of think that's the context of what life actually looked. So when you see something with reds and is it kind of shocked you, as a little kid, I'm not talking about being an adult here, but it was kind of, you're a 10-year-old kid or a 12-year-old kid, wow, they had color back when grandma was a little kid. And so that's weird to us because we kind of so look at our world through the lens of our lives, that life kind of began with us, really. That's when things really started. We're surprised that our grandparents were kids or what have you. Was their life, way back when? What was their life? There must have been so much, they didn't have. When it is true, there's a lot of things they didn't have. In kind of in keeping with this idea of context, and looking at things in such a limited scope. I remember being in Ukraine, and it took us a while to figure this out, but it was probably about 2 years in that we had figured this out. And it was just an oddity about maybe the town in which we live or the country in which we live. But it did not matter the weather, at least in the summertime and spring and fall. Winter was a little bit different. But spring, summer, and fall, it didn't make a difference what the weather was like the whole day. I mean, in torrential downpours, you'd wake up and it would be cloudy. And I mean, cloudy there, it's just makes the whole town look drab because it's a concrete city. You know, and with lots of trees, but just concrete buildings, and they're not modern looking, and the dark, dreary, and rain really accentuated the dreariness of it. But no matter how dreary it looked, about anywhere from 5 to 6 o'clock, right in that range, it did not make a difference. The sun would come up. It was uncanny. You could have any kind of weather you wanted to. And I'm sure there were exceptions to this, but so many times I still, if I see the sun come out here, I notice it. I'm like, oh, 5 o'clock, what do you know? But it was like every day that there was rain, it would be every day. So it was like it was kind of like, and then the sun would come out and you would notice the trees in the town, in the golden leaves in the fall and whatever. That's what it would accentuate, and just kind of it freshened everything up. There was this, oh yes, and here's a new day, and then the next day or day after it would rain again and be dreary, and you'd lose all that context of the prettiness that you'd seen the day before. I want to go back to Adam, because we think about what Adam started with. Adam started with nothing. Not even clothes. He started with absolutely nothing. No names of animals, nothing. Well, if the Bible chronologers are correct, and I have no reason to doubt them, all the ones that have done Bible chronology kind of figure that Adam is about 6,000 years ago, a little bit more. I know some people want to make it more, and I don't get into all that. I pretty much accept what the Bible says literally, unless I have a reason not to, and I don't have a good reason not to accept that their ages were their ages, and the Bible didn't miss out on a whole lot when it gave, the various genealogies. So I'm going to accept for just right now 6,000 years. Well, at about 20 years a generation, we're looking at 250 generations from Adam to now. Think about that. To go from nothing, and just 250 generations of a person, 250 transitions. These weren't isolated, but each generation was kind of connected, and each generation there's a person working from what the other person had accumulated in terms of knowledge or accomplishment and invention and culture and all these things. We've had 250 transitions, and we've gotten to landing on the moon and iPhones and vehicles, self-driving vehicles, planes. I mean, DNA, knowledge of all this, everything that we have in science and technology. Think that that's come from nothing in 250 exchanges of time. And we're really not that separated. And I want you to think about that in a limited sense, that there's going to be a generation after us, and even in the difficult things, and we can look at the rain of what is right now, and it accentuates the dreariness of our culture. It accentuates all the dreary things that we have to focus on, and those are there. It's dreary. You can't avoid it. There are some negatives, but it seems like the sun always comes out, and there's always something that results in the positive of things, and I don't want to make it sound like everything's wonderful, and there are no dreary moments. There are dreary moments, there are negative moments in these things, but there will be another generation, and this generation will take what we've accumulated, and they will learn from it, and they will go on, and they will be another part of this humanity that connects all the way back to Adam. So do what you can and leave it to somebody else to do something with.